Sustain, sustain, sustain. This is one of those things that guitar players absolutely love talking about. Bro, the sustain on this guitar, amazing. See, how long the notes ring out is a defining characteristic of an instrument's quality. But imagine the crazy things you could do if the strings rang out forever. And thanks to this wild innovation right here, today we're gonna find out. This guitar here is a Schecter Sun Valley Super Shredder, and besides looking great and playing exceptionally well, there's one specific feature that gets me especially excited. The neck pickup is kind of not really a neck pickup. It's a special gadget called a Sustainiac that makes the strings ring out indefinitely. This is one of those things that's been out there for years, and you'd think, as a guy who has actively pursued the unordinary side of guitar technology, that I'd be all too familiar with Sustainiac pickups. But I'll be honest, before getting my hands on this guitar, I'd never played with one. So today, we're gonna have a whole bunch of fun learning about this and figuring out what kind of wacky stuff this can do. Now, when I approach soloing, I always try to bring in an element of style. You know, the stank, the funk, the stuff that brings a solo to life. And this is something that I teach in my course, the style of soloing, from bluesy double stops to cascading intervals to intricate bends and much more. If you'd like to break the mold, find new inspiration, and wow an audience, the first 50 of you to use the link in the description are gonna get that course for $19. That's something like 75% off. I'm sure those will get used out quickly, so check that out while you still can. Anyways, let's get back to it. So you might be wondering, what the heck is going on with this wizardry? Now, I'm sure you could go down a science rabbit hole explaining how this works, but that's definitely not my expertise. I only took physics in grade 11 because my parents bribed me with a guitar amp. So here's my layman's understanding. This is kind of like a reverse pickup. Instead of capturing a vibration and turning that into a signal, it sends out a signal which vibrates the strings and makes them ring out indefinitely. When this switch is flicked up, it's functioning like a normal guitar. But when we flick the switch down, we engage the sustainer, and that's where the fun begins. With this switch, we have 3 sustainer options. When it's down, our notes just ring out forever. In the middle position, we get a harmonic that's kind of raunchy. And then in the top position, we get a nice pure harmonic. And that brings me to my favorite part of the video. Taking this technology that I'm not particularly familiar with and using it to create weird sounds that make me happy. And this is one of my favorite kind of gadgets. You flick it on, it starts doing what it does, and adapting to it is completely natural. However, the more time you spend with it, the more you discover that you can do with it. And while ripping a rock guitar solo and using it like most people do is great, it's some other usages that get me more excited. Like, check this out. I'm gonna get some chords going and get those lower drone strings ringing out from the sustainer, and it should sound pretty cool. You just straight up can't do that without a pickup like this, and I love it. Or check this out. If I use a slide with the sustainer, it kind of sounds like a woman's voice or a theremin. Or what if I paired it with a delay and brought in some volume swells? And perhaps one of my favorite things I've discovered with this, bring in a trem pedal and it almost sounds like a synthesizer. I always find it interesting trying to figure out when, where, and why innovations like this have come to exist. And the root of this invention, like so many things in contemporary music, lies with the Beatles. Rewind to 1964, the lads are in the studio tracking their song I Feel Fine. John leans his guitar up against Paul's bass amp, and at some point, Paul hits a bass note, which causes the guitar to start feeding back. John Lennon hears this, his ears perk up, and he says, "Wow, that sounds fab. Why don't we use that at the beginning of the song?" And for the first time on a rock and roll recording, the use of feedback is used as a musical device. From there, guitarists like Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Pete Townsend, and Brian May take it to a whole new level, and before long, this distorted feedback sound is a tool used by many a guitarist. Now, I think it's worthwhile discussing where this effect comes from in a typical setup. When you play guitar, your strings are vibrating. That vibration is picked up by the pickup and then sent out through the amp. However, if your amp is loud enough and you position your guitar just right, the sound waves coming out of the amp can actually vibrate the guitar strings. This vibration is picked up by the pickups, sent through the amp, which then vibrates the strings again, picked up by the pickups, sent through the amp, repeat, and what you get is that high-pitched feedback loop. And the sound is great, it's become intrinsically linked into rock and roll, but with the loud volume and having to position your guitar just right, it's a bit of a pain to deal with. So in 1986, two electrical engineers named Alan Hoover and Gary Osborne set out to mimic this effect in a more manageable way. And what they came up with is the Sustainiac pickup. And now I can get a similar but much more controlled version of that sound. So to wrap this up, let me tell you my thoughts on this. First of all, I'm a big fan. I didn't know how much I needed one of these in my life. It's got me doing things I would never do, making sounds that I would never make. And my favorite pieces of gear are ones that inspire me in a unique way. Now, if you're thinking about living the Sustainer dream like me, you can get this kind of pickup in a number of different guitars. Being not really a pointy metal guitar guy, I particularly like this option compared to some of the other ones out there, especially at the price point. Sweetwater's got these listed for $899, and there's a couple of different color options. If you want to check these out, I've got a link in the description. It always helps me if you hit my specific link. There are some other gadgets on the market that seek to mimic this effect, like the EBow. However, with an EBow, it only works on one string at a time, so if you want to do chords, this isn't going to work. There's going to be some guitar players out there who would use a thing like this in a lot of what they do. For me, it's not going to be something that I use every day, but every now and then there's going to be a specific thing that I want to do, and this is going to be the only guitar that can do that thing. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is my first foray into the wild world of the Sustainiac pickup. Now, throughout this video, you've been checking out my cool Samurai Guitarist video game inspired shirt. I got some news for you. This is the brand new merch that just came out. You can find that over at shopsamuraiguitarist.com in a number of different sizes, styles, and colors. And remember, the first 50 of you to use the link in the description to buy my course, The Style of Soloing, are going to get that course for like 75% off for $19. So make sure you hit that link and check that out while you can. And if you'd like to learn more about this guitar, I've got a link in the description for that as well. As always, thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.